Fighting out of Cuba, he bore the weight of a cursed legacy. Two of the country's greatest boxing stars, Kid Chocolate and Kid Gavilan, had fallen on hard times. Tragedy haunted other Cuban champions as well. Sugar Ramos fatally injured two opponents in the ring, and Benny Paret succumbed to injuries sustained in a brutal bout. Yet he was determined to rise above these tragedies and defy the so-called curse of his countrymen.
Mantequilla, smooth like butter, hits like thunder. Mantequilla, smooth in the ring, butter on his gloves, let the punches sing. Cuba to Mexico, champ on the rise, lighting up arenas, fire in his eyes. Mantequilla, Mantequilla. Fidel banned us sports, so we fled the scene to Mexico streets, chasing that dream. Left his home behind, tears for his kin. In the ring though, he let the battle begin, knocking out names. He rose to fame, 19 straight wins, put respect on his name. Curtis coaxed up the rap, couldn't see by round 13. Mantequilla, crown champ, living the dream. Mantequilla, Mantequilla, smooth like butter, hits like thunder.
He was born José Ángel Napoles in Santiago, Cuba, on April 13, 1940, though this date remains a subject of speculation. He rarely talked of his upbringing, but his father was a schoolteacher. As a youth, Napoles brawled on the slum-ridden streets of his neighborhood, with his uncle often acting as the matchmaker. By his own account, Napoles participated in more than 300 street fights. "I had 6 brothers," Napoles said, "and when I wasn't fighting other kids, I was fighting them." His mother tried to discourage him from fighting, but at the age of 11, Napoles made up his mind to become a boxer. He hitched rides to Havana to watch and later train with the country's top fighters. Under the guidance of Alfredo Cruz, also known as Kid Rapides, he quickly rose to become one of the top amateurs in Cuba. Napoles developed a slick style, earning the nickname Mantequilla because he was smooth like butter, though the moniker originated from an incident at his 11th birthday party. "I saw this beautiful woman," Napoles said. "Her name was Mileno. She had this great ass. I had no bad intentions. We hugged. She was taller, so I ended up grabbing that ass. She started punching me and I started punching back. My uncle asked Mileno if she hit me. She said she tried, but I was very sly, very slick. It was like trying to hit butter." Napoles reportedly compiled an amateur record of 370 wins against 5 losses. "The 5 guys who beat me," Napoles said, "I fought again and beat them each twice." He turned pro at the age of 18 in 1958, fighting exclusively in Havana under the direction of manager Carlos "Cuco" Conde. Conde was both a boxing manager and a respected Major League Baseball scout for the Washington Senators. In July of 1961, Napoles fled poverty-stricken Cuba after Fidel Castro's military dictatorship banned all professional sports. The rising boxer was inactive for over a year before taking matters into his own hands. He went to Mexico to train for a fight, a friend said. He said he was coming back, only he does not come back. Leaving his family behind, Napoles settled in Mexico. He was joined by trainer Kid Rapides and reunited with his manager Cuco Conde, who had relocated there a year earlier. Napoles quickly made an impression, stopping Bobby Cervantes in just 1 round. He split a pair of decisions with Tony Perez before suffering a loss to the popular Alfredo Canelo Urbina. However, Napoles erased any doubts about his potential by stopping Perez in the rubber match and avenging his loss to Urbina with a decisive knockout. Napoles' appearance added to his allure among Mexican fans. He shaved his head and grew out a thick mustache, giving him the look of a vintage outlaw. Napoles soon fought in front of sellout crowds, going on an impressive 19-fight win streak, which included a win over future junior welterweight champion Carlos Hernandez. Despite being floored by an uppercut in the 4th round, Napoles rallied, battering Hernandez relentlessly before finishing him in the 7th. The impressive victory caused reporters to think of Napoles as a threat to lightweight champion Carlos Ortiz. "The thing about Napoles that intrigues me is not so much that he licked Hernandez," former light heavyweight champion Archie Moore said. "It was the way he licked him. This kid is a real mechanic." Napoles' streak of 12 consecutive knockouts caused one of his friends to say, all of a sudden, he was knocking out everybody. In Cuba, he had been a boxer. In Mexico, he was a killer. And they love killers in Mexico. His knockout streak came to an end when he faced former junior welterweight champion Eddie Perkins. Nonetheless, Napoles delivered a dominant performance, flooring his man in the 6th round and earning a convincing decision victory over 10 rounds as the crowd booed Perkins for holding throughout. Napoles climbed to the number 2 spot in the junior welterweight rankings, but the new champion, Carlos Hernandez, showed little interest in putting his belt on the line in a rematch. In August of 1966, Napoles faced seasoned veteran L.C. Morgan for the third time. Having already knocked out Morgan twice, Napoles was expected to secure another KO victory. However, this time, an early cut forced the fight to be stopped in the 4th round. This unexpected defeat highlighted a recurring chink in Napoles' armor, his vulnerability to cuts, an issue that would plague him throughout his career. Napoles regrouped, racking up 14 consecutive victories, but he remained relatively unknown outside of Mexico. That changed in 1968, when retired California promoter George Parnassus recognized his potential and came out of retirement to promote his bouts in Los Angeles. Napoles fought twice that year at the Foreman Englewood, impressing fans with his power and smooth technique. Despite his high ranking, discussions of title shots at lightweight or junior welterweight never got past the talking stage. "I waited from 1963 to 1969, Napoles said. They didn't want to give me a chance. Boxing was my life, and I was very frustrated." But on April 18, 1969, Napoles received his long overdue title shot as he faced welterweight champion Curtis Coates. A pro-Napoles crowd of over 15,000 were on hand, setting a new California indoor record for attendance. Napoles, now married to a Mexican woman, requested that the Mexican national anthem be played when he entered the ring. The fight was one-sided from the start, with Coates later complaining that he couldn't get started. Napoles kept boring in with scorching left hooks, and by the 13th round, Coates' eyes were swollen shut. The defending champion wanted to continue, but his manager asked for the bout to be stopped. Napoles trained for this fight, manager Condi said. Oh, how he trained. Many weeks. He had never worked that hard before. Road work every day and all the rest. Mexican President Gustavo Diaz Ordaz offered his country's newest champion a car or a house. Napoles instead asked to be granted Mexican citizenship. This move also had consequences. Napoles still had family in Cuba. By requesting Mexican citizenship, it also meant he could never return home. 2 months later, Coates was granted a rematch, this time in Mexico City. The outcome, however, was the same. Napoles systematically dismantled Coates, leaving him battered and bloodied. Once again, Coates was forced to retire on a stool, unable to continue after 10 rounds. 4 months later, Napoles returned to the Foreman Englewood to face former 3-time welterweight champion Emil Griffith. Napoles' fellow Cubans had little success against Griffith as the legendary champion had defeated the likes of Kid Fechique, Florentino Fernandez, José Stable, Luis Rodriguez, and fatally injuring Benny Perret. But Napoles surprised Griffith with his power, dropping him in the 3rd round. Reporters and fans all agreed that Napoles boxed superbly as he secured a one-sided decision. Griffith later said that Napoles was the best he ever fought. Asked why he succeeded in defeating Griffith when the other Cubans had failed, Napoles said simply, "I'm better than they are." Outside the ring, Napoles was a man of rituals, deeply believing in the power of spiritual blessings. Before every fight, he would light votive candles in his hotel room, trusting they would grant him an extra measure of divine intervention. However, one night in Los Angeles, his faith met with mishap. He had placed his makeshift altar too close to the hotel room drapes, inadvertently setting them on fire. In February of 1970, Napoles defended against the top-ranked Ernie Indian Red Lopez. Napoles picked Lopez apart from the start, flooring a challenger in the 1st and 9th rounds. But the courageous Lopez remained aggressive, attempting to pin Napoles against the ropes to work his body. Napoles shrugged off these attacks, maintaining control throughout. In the 15th and final round, Napoles floored Lopez once more, which prompted the referee to mercifully stop the one-sided contest. But Napoles' in-the-ring success led to more loneliness as he celebrated with friends and no family. He usually calls his mother after a fight, manager Conti said. I have seen him sit down and cry for a long time after he calls her. Additionally, the longer Napoles stayed out of the ring, the more weight he gained, sometimes blowing up to over 170 pounds. It became apparent that a move up in weight was inevitable, as promoter Parnassus tried to lure middleweight champion Nino Benvenuti into a bout with Napoles. While waiting for a shot at the middleweight crown, Napoles made his Madison Square Garden debut in October of 1970, stopping Pete Toro in 9 rounds. 2 months later, he defended his title against the unheralded Billy Backus, the 27-year-old nephew of the legendary Carmen Basilio. Napoles entered the fight as a 9-1 favorite, with many viewing Backus as little more than a tune-up for an upcoming bout against Hedgeman Lewis.
Esa fue la primera defensa, su segunda pelea como campeón. Aquí está la acción ya candente. animándose bastante Billy Backus, peleando sin complejos, sin respeto para los pergaminos y el prestigio de Mantequilla Nápoles. Era noqueando técnicamente 15 episodios a Indian Red López. Esta es la cuarta defensa. Y está la acción candente en el segundo round del combate. Está actuando con valor, con decisión, con determinación el joven Billy Backus, que acaba de llevarse una derecha bastante sólida de parte de Mantequilla. Otra vez disparando arriba con las dos manos Mantequilla. Un enroquecimiento en torno del ojo derecho de Billy Backus, cuando está por terminar este candente segundo round de la pelea, de un combate a 15 episodios. Se acaba el segundo, y en este tercero, viendo golpes con locura, con valentía, con determinación. Ya hace poco ha recibido Billy Backus los golpes durísimos de Mantequilla, y Billy Backus también conectó con la derecha. A vencer o morir es la consigna en este instante de la pelea. Vamos a ver quién aguanta más, porque esta va a ser la decisión, el factor que decide la pelea. Escúchense al público haciendo un comentario elocuentísimo de la acción emocionante, de la acción cargada de electricidad en estos momentos del tercer episodio. Cambiando Billy Backus golpes a la derecha con la que hizo trastabillera Mantequilla Nápoles. Billy Backus, el hombre del cinturón blanco y las franjas blancas en las piernas del pantaloncillo. Sigue la acción respirante de ese tercer episodio, disparándose golpes de todos colores y de todos sabores. Están sangrando los dos. Mantequilla Nápoles sangrando por la nariz y por la ceja derecha, y Billy Backus también sangrando por la nariz y por la ceja derecha. Un tórrido, trepidante tercer episodio en el que se la están jugando los dos. Faltan 10 segundos para que termine el round. Fuerte derecha de Mantequilla hace retroceder a Billy Backus, que arroja el posicionador bucal hasta su esquina. Y aquí suena. El médico de ring subió a la esquina de Mantequilla y no subió a la esquina de Billy Backus. Y esto puede dar a ustedes una idea de lo que ocurre. El médico suspende la pelea y declara, por orden del médico, declara vencido a Mantequilla Nápoles. Declara derrotado a Mantequilla Nápoles. Declara vencido a Mantequilla.
The referee stopped the fight because of the cut over Napoles' left eyelid. The champion claimed it was caused by a butt. The challenger said that the cut was courtesy of his right hooks. Napoles disappeared at the fight's conclusion, wrapping his robe around him and going back to his hotel room without showering. There was a holdup on his purse, but George Parnassus dragged the local promoter to the bank and got him to produce Napoles' pay of $65,000. He put it all in a paper bag and went back to the hotel room of Napoles. He gave him the money and said, "I'll get you your title back within 6 months." Parnassus kept his word, scheduling the rematch 6 months later. Determined to avoid a repeat of the bloody defeat, Napoles' team hired Angelo Dundee as his cut man.
Backus, the southpaw.
Nápoles has been cut here in the opening round, the opening few seconds of the first round, Tom. I believe it's a right eye.
Nápoles cut is open. Left and right to Backus. Backus connect with the left hand. Nápoles is shook.
And looking at Backus, Tom, I think we're seeing a left-handed Carmen Basilio. The style is similar. He's a heavy puncher, the aggressor.
With the action that's gone here in the first round, it'll be doubtful if this will go 15. They are really throwing leather, like they're not waiting for anything else. Napoles is using his right hand as a jab. And he connects in a solid right. But there's nothing wrong at this moment with Billy Backus's chin, as he has taken a couple of shots.
Time passes, Tom. We see Angelo Dundee working with Nápoles here this evening. Over in the other corner, Carmen Basilio working with his nephew. It seems like only yesterday there was Angelo Dundee working in the corner with Basilio.
Look at him go, toe-to-toe. Napoles, Backus taking and shooting back. Stays right in there, keeps hammering away with that left hand. Look at this battle. I don't know how this could possibly go 15 rounds at this pace.
Now Backus is cut.
Backus is now cut.
This is a carbon copy of their first fight held in Syracuse last December, Tom. All-out action.
Again, the right hand by Napoles.
A special hello from Tom Harmon and yours truly, as well as Don Fridge and George Pronouncus, to all those fine troops in Vietnam who've been kind enough to send along a little note. Thank you, fellas.
Napoles, as Backus forces him into the corner. Left hand by Napoles, connecting. Backus catching now, left and right. Left and right. Backus backs away from the corner.
Once again, the cut has been reopened around the right eye of Nápoles. The challenger here this evening, Mantequilla Nápoles.
Napoles working on the cut on Backus's left eye with those solid lefts and right. And a right hand, not a left hook that time by Napoles. The cut over Backus's left eye is bleeding again. And again that right hand by Napoles. Taking its toll as Backus tries to get that left hand in there. Boys really look like they've been having at it. Again, a right hand by Napoles. Backus flicking that left hand out, really stiff.
Job in keeping that eye sealed up throughout this great fight.
Left hand, Backus. Napoles connecting with a left to right. And a left that time by Napoles. Giving him the mandatory 8.
Billy's right eye is virtually closed, Tom.
Napoles, lefts and rights, right hand. is down. His right eye is closed. Bacchus's eye is closed. Young
It's calling time.
calling
The
for
doctor.
the referee. Wait a minute.
Calling the
It's
doctor.
not a fight. He's calling for the doctor, Jack Hussein. We'll find out whether the doctor will stop it. Jack Young Dick Young, the referee, telling everybody out of the ring. It's all over.
That's all over.
Napoles is the champion again.
Napoles celebrated wildly with the primarily Mexican fans in the forum, screaming in Spanish, "My title, my title, my title." Napoles followed this victory with 3 non-title wins before stepping into the ring with Hedgeman Lewis on December 14, 1971. Lewis employed a hit-and-run strategy that kept Napoles off balance throughout the contest. Despite the challenger's tactics, the relentless champion pressed forward, landing enough shots to edge out a close but unanimous decision. Napoles was not complimentary of Lewis after the bout, complaining that the challenger ran all night. "How can you catch him?" Napoles asked. The close call against Lewis fueled speculation among critics that Napoles was starting to show his age and the toll of 75 professional fights. However, Napoles silenced his doubters by dominating his next opponents. He traveled to England and delivered a highlight reel knockout against Ralph Charles. Charles later admitted, quote, "I just never saw the punch that put me down. All I know is that it was a right hand." Napoles followed up this performance with a 2-round demolition of Adolph Pruitt. Not only did he knock out some of Pruitt's teeth, but he also opened a massive cut over his opponent's eye, forcing the stoppage. On February 28, 1973, Napoles faced his own worst enemy once again, his tender skin. In a rematch against Ernie Indian Red Lopez, a headbutt in the second round opened a cut over Napoles' right brow and a deep gash between his eyes. Cutman Angelo Dundee worked frantically between rounds to control the bleeding, but the cuts only intensified Napoles' desire to stop Lopez before the ringside physician had his say.
Cruza bonito nuevamente con la mano derecha, ahora con la izquierda, con la derecha, intercambio de golpes, está sacando la mejor parte Nápoles, se lleva rápidamente hacia atrás al Indio López, una linda, precioso cruzado amigos, precioso cruzado, combinación de derecha a izquierda y quedó tendido el Indio López, fulminante, fulminante. Tiene que subir inmediatamente el médico de ring, doctor Jack Hussein. Y José Mantequilla Nápoles acaba de retener la corona de las 147 libras. Una combinación preciosa.
Napoles next journeyed to France, shutting out Roger Minitry over 15 rounds. He then traveled to Canada to face Clyde Gray, but the local reporters noted that Napoles seemed to be in a sour mood, offering few words to the press. When given a room with 2 single beds, he demanded a large double bed and even threatened to return to Mexico if his request wasn't met. Napoles took out his frustration on Gray, earning a hard-fought decision. Toronto reporter Jim Carnahan described Napoles as, quote, "the finest practitioner in pugilism, a fighter who can beat any 147-pounder in the world with a bewildering collection of ring expertise." Napoles had popped the myth of creeping age, much like one pops the cork on a bottle of champagne. He had now cleaned out the welterweight division and once again looked to step up in weight. On February 9, 1974, Napoles challenged Carlos Monzon for the middleweight title. Napoles started aggressively, but by round 4, he was disheartened by the lack of effect his punches had on Monzon. Using his signature sledgehammer right, Monzon pounded Napoles' eyes into a bloody mass of swollen flesh. After the 6th round, Napoles returned to his corner, telling them, "There's no way I can beat this guy." Dundee agreed and stopped the fight. Critics now believed Napoles was finished, but 6 months later, he dropped back down to the welterweight division, defending his belt against Hedgeman Lewis for the second time. He looked like the old Mantequilla again, bending over the challenger with body shots before finishing him in the 9th round. "Mantequilla can fight forever," Dundee said. "He ages like fine wine." After demolishing Horacio Saldano in his next title defense, an out-of-shape Napoles faced a tough challenge from top contender Mando Muñoz in March of 1975. Throughout the bout, Muñoz was repeatedly warned for headbutts, and by the 12th round, Nápoles was bloodied and battered. The referee then stopped the contest, declaring Nápoles the winner by technical decision, ruling that the cuts were caused by Muniz's headbutts. Despite giving the victory, Nápoles appeared to be the beaten man. The controversy only deepened when the WBA withdrew its recognition of Nápoles as champion after the fight. Less than 4 months later, Nápoles faced Muniz in a rematch. Once again, the challengers scored heavily, but Nápoles turned the tide, flooring Muniz in the 8th round and securing a decisive victory on the scorecards. Now 35 years old, the signs of decline were evident as Nápoles prepared to defend his title against England's John Stracey. Critics remarked that the champion looked 35 going on 39, but Nápoles dismissed their concerns, insisting that age was not a factor. "I have a grandfather who is 92, Nápoles said, and he's still making love to all the pretty girls he can undress. I will undress John Stracey."
Good jabs from Stracey. There's the left hook, there's the following right, and Stracey finds trouble in the opening seconds, and the left hook puts him on the floor. Just the sort of trouble we thought he might have, and he's got it. He's up early, and he's deciding to squat and take the full compulsory 8 count. So that is tantamount to disaster for Stracey in the opening minute and a half. And Nápoles is not a man to let you off the hook once he's got you going. So now the 25-year-old British European champion, Stracey, really has got to work now to survive in this fight. And Nápoles is after him and can hardly miss him. Stracey looks to his corner, which is on the right. There won't be any help coming from there until the bell ends the first round. So Nápoles has made the best possible start to the defense of his title. And that's not a good opening for John H. Stracey. With Stracey, his back to the wall after the opening knockdown. And having to take care. And Nápoles working all the time, looking for a few more punches, like the ones that hit Stracey in the first, and Stracey's finding 1 or 2 hitting him again. Nápoles holding, and told about it by the Mexican referee. Stracey's face reddened. But he's made a good recovery after that bad start. First, and already you can see that Nápoles now has got trouble around the eyes. And that's interesting, because after only 2 rounds, although Stracey's been under pressure, he's done enough to cause the corner to put a patch on the right eye. And you can see for yourself how the left eye of Nápoles is already beginning to swell. And it's swelling so badly that, in fact, it's closing. And this fight won't go much further before Nápoles won't be able to see out of the left eye. So although Stracey has lost the opening rounds, in fact, there's enough trouble on Nápoles' face to give the British camp a lot of hope. Not afraid and not worried. Good round for Stracey. He's making the other man miss, and he's got him. He's caught him, and Nápoles is down. 3rd round. Referee telling Stracey to get to a neutral corner. Somebody's thrown a cushion or something into the ring, protesting against Stracey, who wanted to keep on punching Nápoles. Compulsory 8 count. Nápoles is up, but it's a compulsory 8 count under the rules. So now the world champion marked heavily on the face and has been on the floor. And suddenly, from being Nápoles' fight, it's become Stracey's fight. Still dangerous, but no telling now which way it will go. What a good round for Stracey. Now Nápoles coming back strongly with these hooks.
the sort of combination punching for which he's famous, and that is exactly the sort of thing that destroyed Ralph Childs, who was managed by the same man as Stracy a few years ago. Doubtful now whether Nápoles can see out of his left eye. Perspective going, judgment of distance going from him. Backing up, getting caught. Look at that left eye. Catching Stracy occasionally, but the boy from Bethnal Green taking them and still coming forward, and that is very significant. Coming to the end of the fourth. Quite a good round for Nápoles, but he hasn't put his man on the floor. So Nápoles ahead on points, but perhaps that doesn't matter so much. A lot of encouragement coming for Stracy from his corner. Left eye bleeding. That's the eye that was cut in his last fight and reopened again in training here, so that could give Stracy trouble. It's an old injury. Look at cut now on the right eye of Nápoles, as well as the left eye shutting. So the world champion fighting in his own capital, in front of his own people, at his own altitude, suffering all sorts of indignities here from Stracy. Mind your head from the referee. Stracy coming forward, taking the initiative. Significant that Nápoles takes time to get off the ropes when he's caught there. Head being pushed back by these jabs. Mind your head, Nápoles. Just pushing him out. Again, he catches Stracy with what looks like a good right hand, and Stracy can take it. Stracy pumping out the punches. Mostly left, the occasional right coming in, working to that very badly damaged face of the world champion. And really, by the look of that face of Nápoles, the world champion's only got a few rounds in which to finish this, because he surely can't go far with that sort of damage. Into the fifth coming up. Good round for Stracy. Blood on Stracy's face. But he's putting in the punches as the bell ends the fifth. Turn in a very significant way. So we could be faced with an historic moment for British boxing. If Stracy could win the welterweight championship of the world on the champion's own ground. Stracy with grease on the left eye. Left jab pumping out into the face, the badly marked face of the 35-year-old champion. The refereeing has been very, very fair, one must say that. Although it was thought the odds were stacked against Stracy with the officials being Mexican, this Mexican referee has treated this fight absolutely fairly. Good jabs from Stracy, always working into the injured face of Nápoles. And Nápoles faces defeat in his own capital city. If Stracy can only keep this up, the champion has slowed down to nothing, and this crowd, apart from a few cheers, they know that something is wrong with Nápoles. He's trying hard and getting nowhere. And all the encouragement now is coming from the British corner. They can be heard above everybody else in this Mexican bullring. few Britons in the crowd, but they're making all the noise because Tracy is going on to win. He's got his man reeling all over the place, and Nápoles can't do anything about it. Back to the ropes again. Nothing in the champion's punches. And Tracy puts it all in, punch after punch, and he's been pulled off because that's too much for Nápoles, and Tracy has won.
Nápoles retired following the defeat and went on to open a nightclub in Mexico. However, he later found himself in legal trouble when he was arrested for assaulting a police officer inside his nightclub. Nápoles claimed the officer had been drinking without paying, leading to the confrontation. He later settled in Guadalajara, where he played in a band specializing in Cuban music. He also dabbled in acting, but his hobby of betting on racehorses took a toll on his finances. Reflecting on his misfortunes, Nápoles could only laugh. "I've signed papers that said $1 million on them," Nápoles said. "At the end, maybe I'd get $230,000. They'd say, well, we took money for this and we took money for that. Then in the end, that's all there was. Doesn't matter." In June of 1990, he returned to Canastota, New York for his Hall of Fame induction. Nápoles had gained more than 50 pounds, surprising old foe Billy Bacchus, who greeted him at the hall. "I was surprised," Bacchus said. "I thought, whoa, there's a lot of person there." I was going to tease him, but he wouldn't understand. By 1994, Nápoles was working as a boxing trainer in Juarez, Mexico, passing on his knowledge of the sport to a new generation. However, his occasional fondness for alcohol, coupled with declining health, brought challenges as he aged. On August 16, 2019, Nápoles passed away in Mexico City at the age of 79. He was surrounded by his wife, his children, and grandchildren, who remained by his side in his final moments.